Yeah. Now tell me which page and which para.
The very beginning of Upanishad.
This is the very beginning. Isha Upanishad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of Upanishad.
This is the Isha Upanishad. This is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Isa Upanishad.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes, I
So,
can see it. So it starts off with the word that, and that is referring to something that no words can describe, something with perfection, right?
it says that the invisible absolute is whole. Whole is
Mm-hmm.
this, the visible phenomenal. From the
Mm-hmm.
invisible wholes come forth an invisible whole. Though the visible whole has come out from the invisible whole, yet the whole remains unaltered. Oh my goodness. You understand what he said?
Uh, so it was very difficult to understand until I read the explanation, and then it became more clear.
Don't read the description because this is the thing, the above paragraph, quote unquote, because this is
Mm-hmm.
this is very dangerous. Like this thing, I'm quoting this thing up to there.
Okay,
This is said by some enlightened people, no matter whom. But this is said by someone who has touched or who was the dimension and that dimension. You understand what I mean by dimension?
dimensions,
Objectivity. Objectivity. The person who was
objectivity.
the person who was objective and he was living in
Yes.
objectivity. These are
Mm-hmm.
the lines coming from them. And down there, the explanation, whosoever is giving, I'm probably sure that person is not in the same dimension as this person was while he was writing. So
Correct.
these definitions and the descriptions will be totally out of the context. Maybe it can put or take something from this gist, but this paragraph will not totally satisfy the context of this quote. Whosoever has said that, let me say X. Some X has said this, and some Z has explained. So Z will never reach to the point where X was telling. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a difficulty, or I say disadvantage, or I say dangerously involved in reading this thing and understanding this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how should you do that? Then you should ask me, how should you do that? You can do it.
Yeah. Like when I first read the Isa Upanishad, the word that, I didn't know what the invisible absolute was. I didn't know what the word that referred to.
So we will start, and you will also contribute. What do you think about it? What I'm think about it, or what is in my experience, I'm telling you. Look, so
Mm-hmm.
here first thing, I forget all this Om.
Okay.
So I don't know this thing. Why they put this thing there? This is not in my experience.
So the word Om, I know that is what they say when they are meditating. They make the sound the Om in order to concentrate.
That much I also know, but I'm saying how much right they are when they are saying Om. So so it says that
Yes, exhaling. Om.
so it will be easier for you to follow what I'm saying. That the invisible absolute. So first thing, you understand invisible which is not in sight.
Yes, not in sight, not even
Abs-
able to see.
Invisible in physical world, in the world you are living. Invisible means it exists but you cannot see. It's not in your sight.
Right.
It's not in your sight doesn't mean it is been. Hindered by, it is been blocked by something. No, it's not been blocked by, it's the limitation of your eyes that it cannot see. It's the limitation of your sense perception that it cannot perceive. Not only eye, invisible, because there are five sense perception: touch, smell, see, hear, and anything. Touch, smell, see, hear, seeing here. Also one more maybe, if I am not completed. So out of your five sense organ, you cannot perceive it. Then things become invisible to you in every form.
Yes.
If you are not seeing someone, but you can hear the screaming of that person is visible, but not inside. But listen,
But
if
you're
you,
able to see them.
but in your experience, it is existing because you can hear the scream of that person. So
Yes.
here, invisible, you should not understand it as an only sighty thing. If it is in sight
Mhm.
only, then, but in the real world, in this world, people do understand invisible means it is not in the sight, or it is beyond of your sight. You see, but here the quote, the one who is saying it's not totally saying the one which is invisible means that is not in your sight. It's mean it is beyond the scope of your perception of five sense organ. You understand?
Right. You're not able to see it because it's beyond your ability.
You not even to see, you don't even to feel, you don't even to touch, whatsoever it is there. It is not in the sphere of influence and perception of your five sense organs.
And
You understand?
yes.
And then there comes the absolute.
The idea of absolute, I don't understand. What
Absolute,
idea is the
a- a-
absolute?
absolute means absolute. Now it is talking. Now you need to understand what in, because absolute is an adjective. You understand? An adjective needs a noun to qualify.
Yes.
Otherwise, there is no sense of adjective. If you
Yes.
say fat,
Qualifying the noun.
if you say fat, I understand what fat, but what do you mean by fat? A fat man, a fat cow, a fat money? What is this? So it
That's
changes
the question.
accordingly. So absolute here is an objective, adjective, and you need to understand what the noun is, where the guy is pointing towards. So absolute of what? It's saying that
That's the question. Absolute of what?
it's saying the
Maybe the
invisible.
absolute of that.
It's saying invisible absolute.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say the absolute invisible. He say invisible absolute. So here
So
he
absolute is not describing invisible. So
here
what is absolute qualifying?
here he is saying that this
Mm-hmm.
is the quality. This is not the material. Like fat itself is a quality. It's not. If I
Mm-hmm.
say fat man, then there is a man who is fat. Here I'm saying absolute, but he is not saying
Mm-hmm.
absolute of what. He itself is
That's
focusing
what's
on
missing.
want you to understand absolute in its proper sense, which means objectivity, no subjectivity involved. Whatsoever
Mm-hmm.
it is absolute. And he even don't know. And if he know, he don't want to put there, because he will put there, you will misunderstand it, like the person who might have explained in the bottom and misunderstood it, something as God,
Mm-hmm.
something as whatsoever. If he was because if the describer who is citing below can take it as God, why can understand it as God, then why the person who has written the above code has not put the God over there? What is the problem with him putting, saying this thing? He might have some thought of a school, and he has tried to avoid putting God or some noun after it, so not so there won't be any room for you to create your thought school. You understand?
Yeah, he wants to
So
avoid a misunderstanding and
he try
mistake.
his best. The guy has tried his best to avoid any misunderstanding you can create in mind. So I will read
Yes.
it again. Here he is pointing toward that. What that is, that he mean, the that he is referring here is an invisible absolute.
Yes.
When it is invisible, it essentially means that it is beyond the scope of this physical world. It is not existing in this world. It might be existing, but not perceivable to you. You understand? So
Yes,
the
it's not
thing
in
which
the
is
physical world.
the thing which is not existing to you, It cannot be it cannot be materialistic. It has to be something spiritualistic or whatsoever. It is not materialistic.
Not materialistic.
If the thing is not materialistic, then there is no need to put an adjective. But you have to define that, you have to understand it, and you will have to put an tag. So what he have done, he just put the adjective there, that is absolute. Now it's your duty to understand what absolute is. That is the journey, that is the search, that is the question. What is that absolute?
Yeah, what is the absolute?
We will not go into this thing because this is the question. What is this absolute? And that guy has just might have spent many, like the hundreds of years or maybe tens of years to understand this absolute. So I think it will be prejudice to directly land on that absolute before going to the entire text. But for now, we have understood this absolute is nounless, this absolute is an adjective, and is indicating towards something which is objective in the nature. You understand this much?
Yes, so something very objective,
So that
not
is something
subjective.
very objective, which is beyond the influence of the sphere of this real world.
Yes, something that
But
is not materialistic.
you understand?
And he avoids using the word God because that word comes with so many possible meanings, it can cause a mistake.
Of course. And he don't want to put any dirt in your mind. He want your mind as vacant as could be. Though he's putting his things, but he's again giving you a question to ask. So the dirt is not settling in your mind.
Yes,
You are always dusting the dust with your questions. So that guy,
through asking the
brilliant,
question.
brilliant, and opening room for asking questions. Because the first line you read, you ask question where this is an hanging adjective. Where is the noun?
That's what's missing.
That was missing. It's not missing. It's not missing. Missing might be in your sense. Something is missing here is essentially not means that this thing is not existing. Maybe the missing is telling the missing of something is in proxy for its existence.
Right, maybe it's a proxy.
So let's
So
go.
the absolute is explaining that, the thing that it's difficult to describe
Yes. So now we will go to the next line. That you understand, which is very objective in the nature, is whole. Of
is
what
whole.
you mean by whole? Whole here he used very simply. There is no, I think, put. There is no need to read between the lines. I think the writer want to point towards whole means something which doesn't need
Complete.
anything. Which doesn't need. Here he has defined whole. What is whole? Next line. Whole. Whole is this the visible phenomenon from the invisible. So he is saying,
And this is different from that. This is the something that's near a person, near his experience.
yeah. So he is saying in the next line that is whole. Something which is objective is whole. It doesn't need anything to add onto it to complete himself. He is
It
complete.
doesn't need anything to complete
He
itself.
That's why it says absolute. Absolute and whole is there is no remaining room for adding something. But he is saying something in the next line. If you take out something from that whole, the whole will not be diminished or will not decrease in the magnitude. If you add something to that whole, it will not increase in magnitude. It's a kind of a buffer. It's always
Mm.
remain. So it says that the whole which is absolute is not affected by why if you take out something from it, if you put in something
Add
from
to
it.
it.
So
It's not affected. It doesn't change.
in the physical world, and he says that the whole in this, the physical phenomenon which is happening in your physical sphere of experience,
It is also whole.
from the invisible whole comes for the visible whole. And he is saying the visible whole which is you are perceiving in your physical world is coming from that something. So you understand here, this is, let's say, this is invisible whole, I marking at cross, but something is coming from here which is in the
Mm-hmm.
physical world, and I'm marking as W bar. And this whole is coming from this whole. However, this whole
Yes,
is
somehow from
invisible.
the invisible whole comes forth the visible whole.
This is invisible. This is visible. Visible in the physical world where we are. Invisible in the metaphysical. Invisible, invisible in the physical world.
In a
So,
different dimension.
so if you are saying this thing is invisible, this thing is visible, then you must say you have the same reference. So here you have the same reference, which is your physical world, or say Hilbert space. In physics, we say
And
Hilbert
that
space.
one came from the other one.
In the Hilbert space, this thing is coming from this thing, and this thing is not perceivable in the Hilbert space. However, this thing is. So what is the consequence of this process? The consequence of this process is that we think though the visible whole has to come out from the invisible whole, where the whole remains unaltered. So it has to come from here,
And the
but
whole remains unaffected.
unaffected. So it's a kind of the person. I will take an objection on this line. He says it is uses the come out. It has uses the come out
Mhm,
from the invisible and uses the term unaltered. So
mhm.
the existence of this thing is not affecting from this thing. Means this thing is coming out. This thing is coming out of this thing. However, this thing is not getting affected.
Right. And usually, if I have a loaf of bread and I take a piece away, then it stops being whole.
So I take an objection on the line that it's comes out of. It should be the guy has to be sort of more clear. I would I would replace this word evolved. Since if you take a pregnant lady and a mother,
Hmm.
the boy
Yes.
or the kid, I should not say boy, the kid came out from the pregnant lady. The
Yes.
existence, the identity of that women remains unaltered. However, the adjectives, the pronouns adds like the, I should not say pronoun. If the mother is a noun or pronoun or adjective.
I think noun.
Now, so it adds on other nouns, but however, the absolute identity of the lady remains lady. The lady will not become a man. The lady will not die if it is not dying by delivery. So there are
Right.
two
She
things.
remains whole.
She remains whole and she give the birth. So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to put in this whole, the invisible whole, when put into the conditions, then it evolves or give birth to something which is visible.
Yes.
When the kid was in the womb, you cannot see that. Ultrasound can see it with the technology. So, but your naked eye cannot see that baby inside the womb. However, after
Yes.
nine
Because
months
of
of
our
conditioning,
limitations.
yeah. However, after 9 months of conditioning, with proper precautions, the baby comes out and you see the result. That is the evolution of that woman, of a married woman to a mother.
Yes.
So something has comes out from it, but it doesn't alter. The woman remain woman. So this is called
Yes.
conceiving and giving. First the lady conceived and this give. So first the invisible whole conceived, then it gave. You understand?
Then it gave.
So that's why it's being unaltered. However, you need to understand always there is action and reaction is going. The invisible whole was always there, but it was not being subjected to those conditions that it could evolve. Buddha was living there since his childbirth, since he was born. Jesus was on this planet since he was born. But what happened after 20 years or 25 years or 30 years, different for different personalities, that they become something which is not very normal for this world. Something has happened with them. So from a normal human being, they become for this world extraordinary. So that conditioning takes time. And that conditioning pressurized or put in the pressure on the invisible whole to evolve in the form of Jesus, in the form of Buddha. You understand?
Yeah. Yes.
However, you need to understand there is action and reaction is going on. Someone has someone has put do the action, that the reaction comes out of Jesus. Direction comes out as Buddha. Direction comes out as Muhammad. Direction come out as any other form of God, Mahavir. I should not use the word God, but some kind of more belligerent, more the one who has. I will talk about this thing in a other form, like how Jesus was different from us. Anyways, so you understand here they have missed one thing: the action and reaction. The cause and effect thing is again going on
The
here.
cause and effect.
You need to understand this thing.
Yes. So I need to ask, what is the cause and the effect?
Cause I can say is the conditioning, some parameters were being put on the invisible whole, and the whole now is obliged to evolve in the form of something that is Jesus and something else, Buddha, Mahavir, Muhammad, many other gods. I can't think of many other gods. I am using the gods in the terms of society. This is not coming from me. I am just giving the term God, so it's become easier for audience to understand what I am meaning from this. Anyhow, now my question is not in the cause and effect. My question is more behind it. What is causing that cause? What is the triggering mechanism? Not mechanism. What is the triggering force which triggered?
What is the triggering force?
That I don't know. That I am still discovering.
Yes, it is a mystery.
It's not a mystery. It's just not in your sight. It's just not in your experience.
Mm.
Now you understand this thing. So here in the now I can say without reading this paragraph, the explainer might have indicated toward God. He said God here. This guy is talking about God. Yeah, he used the word God.
But the problem is the word God has too many possibilities.
Possibilities in what form?
Like each group describes God a different way, and each person who reads it, he'll put his
Listen,
own
man.
idea of God.
Yeah, every community, no matter whomsoever it is, if they have a god, they put God on the topest pedestal possible. Understand? And they think
Yes.
God is not like them always. They always think God is superior to them. God has mysterious forces with him or her. God cannot
Mm-hmm.
commit mistakes. God cannot commit sins. Whatever God will do is the good things. And I told you the good and bad is very relative. For a person who intended to tap the bank, the possibility of getting his or her getting succeed is a good thing, but it's a bad thing for the other person who has money in that bank.
Right. It could be good or bad.
Good and bad in
We
more
describe
perspective. So
we
good
describe the circle.
describe this. Absolutely, we talk about this thing when we was in Haifa.
Yes.
So I see if somebody says God always do good things, God don't commit sins, then they are seeing the half of the story and they are doing prejudice with the God. It's a very limited, stinking, dirty perspective to put on God.
It's very limiting. I agree.
Not only limiting, it's dirty, it's stinking.
Mm-hmm. And we describe the circle symbolizes.
So now what do you understand from this paragraph? So maybe for our coming meetings, we will go through this Upanishad. This is how I will understand my scriptures. Being
Mm-hmm.
born by like getting born in India, I think this is my moral duty to read those Upanishad as a human being, as in this physical body. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the birth
So
which has been put like done by our saints in the previous times. What's the matter is not so matter to me. It's right or wrong, but I think I can make a difference between what is right and what is wrong now. So I think this is a good start. We can
Yes.
go one and one verse every time like this.